Let's just wait for that. All right. All right, cool. We got some people rolling in here. Yes. All right, people do show up. That's nice to see. All right, we got quite a few here coming in, so I'm sure people will start to roll in. Director of operations, actually, they're usually on time, right? It's not realtor hours.
It's correct.
So it's good to see everybody. This is absolutely amazing to be with you. So, all right, well, let's get started. I've got the MAPS coach and excellent director of operations coach Ryan Allen here. This is our Financial Friday, everybody. And so once a month we have a guest speaker on here, and our guest speaker today is Ryan Allen. My name is Kyle Harrison. I'm an executive MAPS coach with Keller Williams, and so I get the opportunity to partner with a lot of Rainmaker CEOs of companies, and so it's really an honor to be here with you today and talk to Ryan. I am also the owner and president and co-founder of Your Bookkeeping Partner and Launch Bookkeeping. Your Bookkeeping Partner is the residential side of bookkeeping for payroll, taxes, and bookkeeping, and we bookkeep to the MREA budget model and chart of accounts. And then Launch Commercial or Launch Bookkeeping is the commercial side of that for real estate. So for the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes or so, Ryan and I are just going to talk about the director of operations role and how they can generate more income for the company and for the team. We are in a webinar platform, everybody. So if you do have a question, and we do want this to be participatory, if you do have a question, just raise your hand and we'll bring you off mute and you can ask, or we'll be monitoring the chat as well, and we can answer the questions as we go. So we really want your involvement. We want to make this a great webinar and really interaction. So without further ado, Ryan, if you take a minute just to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yep. So nice to meet you all. I am Ryan Allen. I am a senior MAPS coach. I have been in the business almost 9 years and uniquely have sat in every seat of a 7th level real estate team.
What does that mean?
So if you look at the organizational chart, I have been everything from EA to agent to transaction coordinator to buyer agent, every single role.
Wow. So you get to understand the entire inside of a real estate company, a real estate business.
Yes.
Awesome. So Ryan, who do you typically coach? What's your niche in the coaching world? Who you get the opportunity to partner with mostly?
So it's interesting. I got into coaching as a director of operations coach because when I got into MAPS coaching, that's the role that I was in and understand really well. Right now, I coach a plethora of roles. Everyone from listing manager, rainmaker, single agent. I really coach to the person. And the person that I coach is a high driver with problems in the business and opportunities in the business that really just need to be simplified to solve.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's dive into today's topic. The DOO. Let's see here. We got the DOO. How a DOO can help a rainmaker generate income. Hey, you're laughing at me. I know. I'm fumbling a little bit here. All right. So I think one of the things that I get the opportunity when I'm working with CEOs and working with rainmakers is what is really the role. Well, first off, let's back up. What's the difference between a director of operations or DOO and an executive assistant? What's really the difference of the two?
Yeah. So if you know me, I'm the queen of analogies. And
Yes.
so the analogy that I always use for this is, well, first off, they are not the same human. They can be if the EA was hired. And if we look at an organizational chart, that's your first hire, right? If the EA was hired and has the personality traits and the characteristics of a DOO, they can grow into that role. However, on paper, they're two very different humans. And the analogy that I like to use is if you are trying to climb over a really tall fence, like a privacy fence, an EA is gonna get on one knee, put their knee out, and provide leverage for you to still climb over that. A DOO is gonna grab your foot and they're gonna throw you over. So one of my pet peeves in the industry is an agent hiring their first assistant and they're like, hey, this is my DOO. Well, it's not, because at that point there is no operations to direct. If you look
Hmm.
at two departments within the real estate business, you've got production and you've got operations. That person is a leader, your partner, in that side of the business, leading all of the people in operations. They're creating the system so that other people can carry them out. But what does DOO start with? It starts with a D. And so this isn't your detailed SC necessarily. They've got a D, if you look at a disc assessment above the line, that is able to take those ideas, find those gaps, and actually run with them. They're not reactive, they're actually proactive.
Yeah. So is it safe to say, Ryan, and that's a great analogy. Is it safe to say that an EA is more of what we call cul-de-sac talent, and a
Yeah.
director of operation is really is the talent, right? To really take that off of Rainmaker's place and take in almost like the integrator of the company, right? Is
Yep.
that safe to say about that?
Yep, exactly.
So how does a Rainmaker know if we've got cul-de-sac talent or really good talent?
So, and I want you to look at it like a partner in the business. So, if you've got true talent in that DOO role, they're going to rip the things out of your hand and then smack your hand when you try to take them back. Right. And EA, if you're holding a book, you're gonna have to sit down, you're gonna have to say, this is what the book is. We're gonna go through each one of the pages. Here's what I need you to do. A DOO is gonna come in and truly say, these are the gaps in your business operationally, and this is how I'm gonna solve them.
Hmm. So they're really self-led at that point.
Yep.
Got Yeah, and I think that there's some confusion in that where they at least in my world, I'm sure it's in your world too, where they say, oh, the person's a DOO, and I have to train the person, or I've got to sit down, I got to spend a ton of time with them, and then this person has to come to me to ask me for things to implement. That's really an executive assistant. It's not someone you mentioned your partner, to really say, look, this is what's needed. I'm going to take it, and then you just go do your thing. You sell, you make money, you move things in the right direction, and I'm going to be there to integrate everything.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I had a call yesterday with a new hire in an operations role, and they have a process in the business that they need to create. And we talked about the timeline of when it was going to be done. And they said, well, I need to sit down with this agent and we need to work on this and then build this out together. I need to know what they want.
Mhm.
A DOO, and what I recommended to them was go build it, bring them the final product, and then if the agent needs to tweak it, that's fine. But you are going to take this, you are going to sprint with it. We can make some adjustments later, but we're not dependent on that agent to make sure that this gets completed or comes to fruition.
Or wait on that agent, because sometimes Rainmakers is
Or
just,
wait.
yeah. One of the analogies I heard one time, and I think it's such a powerful one, is if I was to walk into your office, let's say, Ryan, you're the Rainmaker, and I was walk into your office, I should not be able to tell the difference between a director of operations and the owner of the company.
You got
Like
it.
I should not be able to know who's owning it just because of that leadership role of a director of operations. Is that accurate to say that?
Absolutely. and
Yeah.
and those are the people that are still in my world as DOOs. They are often mistaken for the CEO of the company. And when you get to the level in your real estate business where you're looking to step out of production, that's the first person you should look at to run your operation when we remove you from the equation.
Got it. So I hope everyone's listening on this, whether you're in this, executive assistant or whatever the job title is, and obviously we're focusing on the director of operations role today. Is are you taking things off of your Rainmaker's plate, and are you implementing things or doing things and asking for forgiveness later, right? Or running it past them later after you've built it. So I just look in the mirror. Whoever's on the in the webinar today is just look in the mirror and how are you showing up for the Rainmaker? Are you showing up as an EA and need that handheld, or are you really taking things and running with it and then bringing it back to the Rainmaker to help them?
Mhm. A great
Yeah.
example I have of that. So for those of you that don't know, my husband is the leader and owner of our real estate team. And when I stepped out of that DOO role, we replaced that with a new hire in the DOO role. And I will never forget when he called me and he said, and I think she's on this call, so this is a testament to you, Amanda. But he called and he said, she's driving me absolutely crazy. She keeps coming in and filling all these gaps. She's going 90 miles an hour. And I almost cried because she is just taking it away from me. Cried in a good way. And I
Yeah.
said, I need you to be me when I'm not here. And so she was able to step in that role, identify the gaps, rip them out of his hand, and go make sure that they got done. Versus if you're an agent hiring your first EA, it's very much a partnership. You're going to sit down together. You're going to say, here's how we do things. Here's what I need you to do. Versus her name's Amanda. Amanda coming in saying all these things need updated and changed, and this is where the business needs to go, and I'm going to take care of it, and I'm going to go do it.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, Ryan, I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's really the hub, right? It's a hub of any company, it's a hub of any business. This one hire can really make the impact. This director of operations, and one of the things, if you're a newer agent or you're working with a newer agent, is people tend to hire for what they need today rather than potentially hiring of what the future of the company is going to look like. And I love what you said, early on was going back to the organizational chart is, are you hiring for the person just to push the paperwork today? Or are you hiring the person to run your company in the future? They just happen to have to push the paperwork today because we're not there yet. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we got to really get clear because it's the pain, right? It's the pain of having to do your own transaction. It's the pain of maybe writing up contracts. It's the pain. So yes, we are hiring for today. However, we're hiring for the talent, and anyone on the screen is, could you run this company tomorrow? And if not, where's the growth gap to be able to do that?
Well, and I think that is an agent's superpower and kryptonite is being the visionary and being able to bounce from one thing to the other. That's what got your business to where it is in the first place to make this hire.
Yeah.
And what we see happen a lot is just what you said, is hiring out of pain, and they realize they need help. And so if you look at the organizational model and you do it correctly, as a single agent, you've done so much business that you're the admin. If you don't have a maid, you are the maid. And that in level one, you are everything. And we look at bringing in a buyer agent as the first hire. No, it's the admin to take the things off of your plate and provide leverage so that you can take care of more transactions. When you get to, and a true DOO doesn't come in until around level 5. When you get to that level 5, and for those of you that don't know what I'm referencing, it's the MREA organizational model. When you get to that
And the
level
MREA is,
5,
let me stop you. MREA is the
right,
Millionaire Real Estate Agent Red Book, or the book. So just, yeah, look at
yes,
that on the organizational model, that chapter. And this is what Ryan's talking about.
yep. And they typically wait too long to make those hires, so they are hiring out of pain, and they're not building the business for where the business is going, not where the business is. And once you get to that, up until that point, you are the leader of everyone.
Yeah.
You bring that DOO in, they now lead that entire operations department, and the strategy and the business and the playbooks and the financials, and they become your partner in that business. So all that you are taking care of are listings. You show up, you go on the listing appointment, you go to closing, you move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's the art of the leverage piece. And people say, "Oh, I can do that better," or if you've got to take things back, then it's almost like, why do you need that person if you've got to take some of those things back? You coach a lot of director of operations, Ryan. What are some of the challenges that you see the most in coaching some of your director of operations?
So just for clarification, coaching challenges with them in the role or challenges with them in the organization?
Sure.
Okay. um, Challenges with them in the role is once they understand where the business is going and getting total clarity on that. So when you make this DOO hire, you as a Rainmaker have got to slow down to speed up.
Say
And
that
as
again.
a
Say that
Rainmaker,
again. Say that
you
again.
have to slow down to speed up.
What does that mean specifically?
Yeah. So at that point in your business where you're bringing this DOO in, we're cranking. We're a well-oiled machine when it comes to production. And they want to take this high level talent and put them in this role and disappear. And that cannot happen, because if you truly have high level talent and you don't slow down to train them and adapt them to your business and clearly cast your vision, you are not setting that hire up for success. And if they are a true level talent, they will leave you.
Yeah.
Slowing down to really solidify that foundation so that you can only focus on production and they are set up for success to run the operational side of the business. That is the one downfall. If I could, my absolute pet peeve is bringing these people in that are top talent and then they're just think it's set it and forget it.
Yeah. It goes back to, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And anybody, and I shouldn't say anybody because that's a strong word. People who are successful, right, in the real estate space, they move very fast, right? And you're right, because it's time, it's dumping and running, right? It's that. And I think we have a lot of probably director of operations on here. It's having the ability and the autonomy to say, wait a minute, Rainmaker, we need to slow this thing down so I understand this, and really doing that instead of being a yes person or no person. It's also giving the autonomy to help slow the Rainmaker down, correct?
Yes. And almost grabbing them by the face and saying, I need you to stop. I need you to focus. I need to know what this is so that I can sprint with it.
Got it. Okay. So that's a challenge
And
that you
that's where that higher D comes in. A typical SC is not going to do that. They are
That's
not
right.
going to take the reins and say, here's where we need to steer. No, we need to stop here, plug this gap, and then take off 90 miles an hour. And that's where that personality trait comes in that you won't see in a typical EA.
Yeah. It's interesting in my world. I've got one like that. It just she poo-poos on 90% of the things I throw, because I'm the visionary, right? And she's the integrator, and it's the same thing. It's like, no, we're not going to do that, or that's a great idea, or that's dumb, Kyle. It's that D personality that has that autonomy to do that, and so wildly important. That's great.
I
So what other
remember, and in the moment, I did not see it as a compliment. Now that I've coached others, I have realized that it was a compliment. When I was in the role, I remember my Rainmaker saying, God, you drive me absolutely crazy. And thank you. Because he would come in, the ideas don't stop, guys. The ideas, hey, I got an idea. Hey, I got an idea. That's not going to go anywhere. But being able to, like you said, poo-poo on those ideas, or say, hey, actually, this needs to be done first. This is the first domino, and we can get there. As a visionary, when you want to throw out 800 ideas a day, you may feel as though that's stopping you and keeping you out of your genius zone, when in actuality, it's slowing you down enough to do it the right way versus throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it all sticks.
Yeah, love that. What are the challenges you see? And because we're going to get into some DOOs and really how to bring additional income to the team. And I think this is actually a big part of it, because it's a lot freeing up time so the rainmakers and the owners can actually go generate more income. So this is actually, it may not be dollar per dollar. However, it's the activities to really pull that off of the owner of the company. What other challenges do you see coaching director of operations?
Well, and I think this ties into how DOOs can generate income in the business. And it is the rainmakers having the clarity on when that role is actually winning. And I can go back to when I was first in this role and learned about making a GPS, right? And agents, it's very easy to quantify when you're winning. You've got contacts, you got appointments, you got closings, you got GCI, all of the things that we can add a measurement onto to figure out, okay, we nailed it or we didn't. In operations, I remember being in that seat saying, I have a list of 50 things. How in the world do I put that on a GPS or even quantify it? The way that I quantified it was I checked all the boxes. And through the past probably 6 years and really getting clear on how to quantify that role, if you can attach a metric to it and your DOO can say, yes, I nailed it, that just becomes fuel for their fire to continue to do that in their role and in the business. And a Rainmaker, we've got to get clear on what's the ROI of this investment in this human, and how do we get really clear on when this person is winning in their role. Because if you bring in top level talent as a director of operations, they want to know when they're winning. They're not just someone to show up, do the job, check the boxes, and go home. They want to know that they've made an impact on the business, financially, organizationally, and systematically.
So let's get in the details of that a little bit, Ryan. What does that look like? What are some of the things that you see that director of operations are winning, right? What's some of the areas that a Rainmaker and ROI, or a Rainmaker business owner can get an ROI on that human? Can you give some
Yeah.
examples
So,
just for our guests here today?
yeah. Can I share my screen? Would that be okay?
Heck yeah. Let me make
Okay.
sure we get so Sig, make sure I think I can give it. Yep, you're good. Host and can both
Okay.
share. Yep, I think
And
you're good.
I can send this, guys, to Kyle so that you can have a copy of it. But we spent a really long time identifying the job functions of a director of operations. And we came down to five main pillars, and that's leadership, database, systems, financials, and HR.
Okay.
And if we really dive into each one of these, you'll see each one of the subcategories under this. And then we have to identify how to quantify it. So if we look at database, for instance, an EA is going to clean it up. They're going to tag it. They're going to organize it. They're going to put them on smart plans. That's great. A DOO is going to look at, okay, we have 5,000 nets in our database. How do we get an ROI based on our 36 touch and driving repeat business and referral business for what we pay for these leads and what we pay for this database? What's our ideal ROI and how do we measure it? On our systems, our client experience, how many referrals are we generating per year from the operations department, which is easily quantifiable based on GCI? How many reviews are we getting? What percentage of our clients that are coming through here are leaving reviews? And that's easily quantifiable.
So what? So let me stop you right there, Ryan. I think I just had a aha moment here. So even if a director of operations, they're moving into a bigger role as the company is moving, and they're doing some of the EA work. It's not just setting up the client event, right? It's not just putting the marketing pieces together and sending it out and calling people to make sure they arrive, right? It's the
Yep.
analytics behind it that moves the company. So it's really
Yep.
another level of saying, okay, looking at it as an owner, their director of operations, looking at it as an owner and saying, okay, what's the KPI or key performance indicators that drive this event in this particular case and the ROI on this event based off of referrals and the money spent and those types of things.
Yep.
Um,
So
that was
let's
just an
stick with
aha as
event.
you were talking through this. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Let's stick with event, for instance. So on that event, as an EA, they're gonna call the caterer, they're gonna get the
Yeah.
giveaways away, they're gonna get the venue, they're gonna set it up, right? They're basically the air traffic controller. A DOO is gonna say, how do we get other vendors to pay for this? Our DOO came to me last week and she loved it that she set up an event and we actually made money on it, from all of the vendor contributions. We're going to identify, okay, how many people are we inviting? Based on the number of people we are inviting, how many typical RSVPs do we get and how many actual attendees do we get? Of those attendees, how many referrals are we driving from this event? And based on referrals and conversion of those referrals, how much GCI do we need to drive in this business to make sure that this is an event that we're going to continually do? And we can look at it as an investment rather than an expense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the aha right there. That's the metric, that's the KPI, just going deeper behind that client event. And you can do that for all different types of things, right? I mean, whatever the systems are and making sure that money is invested accordingly. And again, this goes back to the ROI, right? The bringing money or extra income to the Rainmaker is by just tracking this. And the Rainmaker's not, I mean, most Rainmakers are not going to slow down to do that. This is where a director of operations can do some of the heavy lifting for that. That's great.
And going back to ROI, that's not just ROI on our expenses, that's ROI on those individual hires. So, and this is how you can quantify the operation, even down to a TC. So if you pay a TC $30,000 a year, and we've identified at minimum, we want a 4 times return on that hire. Okay. So we need to bring in, that hire needs to bring in $140,000, I'm sorry, $120,000 of GCI into the business. Well, how does a TC do that? They do that through the client experience. So if in your market, average GCI per unit is $10,000, that TC needs to bring in 12 referrals through the client experience, 1 a month, in order to make that happen. Okay, 1 a month. Let's say you're closing 10 units a month. One of those people needs to give a referral through their client experience. The DOO is going to say, what systems do we need to put in place to ensure that that TC is driving 1 referral per month?
So what does a TC need to do to be able to drive that referral?
Ask.
That's wait, back up. That sounds too simple. What do you mean by that?
So if you look at a TC, they're the mama duck, right? It goes under
And
contract.
by the way, everybody, Ryan and I have a great relationship, right? We're coaching colleagues, and so we're just having a conversation. So this is really cool. So
yeah, he doesn't hate me. He loves me in real life. So TC taking the buyer or the seller once they go under contract all the way to closing and even post-closing, right? They are their mama duck. They're guiding them through every step of the way to get them to the closing table. You have a fantastic opportunity in loving on those humans, those buyers and sellers, for what, 30 to 45 days?
Yeah.
The impact that you can make on the experience that you provide them, the surprise and delight opportunities. And that gets built into a system. So your DOO is going to say, we have an opportunity here, not just to check the boxes and check in with the lender and fill out the forms. That's very reactive. The DOO can say, we have an opportunity here to surprise and delight these buyers and sellers, ask them for referrals. Every high point throughout the transaction, they're able to say, hey, congratulations, your appraisal came in. We're good to go. We're looking to get to closing. Hey, John, we have loved working with you. And we build our business off of reviews and referrals. Who do you know that Kyle could reach out to that may be looking to buy or sell a home here in the near future? We would love to service them as well.
It's that simple. And just do it often, right? For every referral, we got to ask 5 to 7 times, right? Whether it's the same conversation or just keep asking. So what you're saying, Ryan, is throughout the transaction, every opportunity that we get a chance to speak to that client, we should be asking for the referral. And all we're saying, what you're saying is the ROI on that TC is 1 a month.
Yep. With those numbers that we just used. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So it's really
and there's a question in the chat that should we expect the TC to take initiative on this, or is this something the Rainmaker and DOO should set up? Rainmaker and DOO sets it up. Your TCs are not salespeople. And if you noticed in that script, I said, who do you know that Kyle could reach out to? That takes the ownership off of them. They are not salespeople. They do not want to put their own name on it. Can you give me something that makes them really uncomfortable? You need to provide them with the script, the touch points in the system that they are going to ask this. Then you can track it. How many times have we asked? How many referrals did we get? But I put the ownership on Kyle, and 9 times out of 10, that sits a little bit better with the TC to be able to say, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for Kyle.
Yeah. And sometimes just hearing a different voice, people are, because you got a director of operations that may be talking to the client, you got a rainmaker that may be talking to the client. They're used to hearing that. And when a TC is coming at them at a different angle and providing value through the transaction, they seem to let their guards down maybe a little bit more. The client does. So it's just getting that intentional around asking for that.
And my favorite measurement is measuring how many of the reviews actually mention the TC versus the agent. That's when we know in operations we're winning.
Say that again. Slow that down just to make sure people understood that, because that's
Yeah.
powerful.
So if you are my client and I'm the TC and I'm taking care of you, and you leave us a review and you don't mention John the agent, you mention me the TC, that's my favorite part.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Kelly, you got your hand raised. Come off of mute. Let's make sure Kelly can come off of mute and ask.
I have a quick question. Like, I can imagine telling our TC, could you please do that? And what she'll do is add it to her little letter and posts. Is there a more creative way that you know of to ask for them to ask for a referral?
Absolutely. So if you're familiar, the Promise script is a fantastic system to implement. And it will tell you throughout the entire process, here are the check-in points, here's what you say, and here's how you measure it. So it needs to be added to the system, but look at it just like a for sale by owner script. We're going to provide them with what to say, but then we're going to practice it. And we're going to make sure we're really clear on it and they can deliver it effectively so that they're getting the results that you're looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but could I get a copy of the Promise script?
Absolutely. Yeah, I will send the 5 functions of a director of operations and then the Promise script system so that they can share it with you guys.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
send it over to me, Ryan, and we'll make sure our
Yeah,
team
you're
gets
welcome.
to the right people. So, okay. So that's one way, right, of generating more income for the rainmakers, really getting that TC involved and really asking the question. And just, yeah, I think people tend to overcomplicate things to justify their own inaction. So they think these big things that are happening, they're complicated. And Ryan, they're just not, right? I mean, it's just, I will say the only thing that's consistently could potentially be hard is everybody rowing in the same direction to serve the client? You mentioned that, giving them a great experience. And are we looking to bring more business to the company, whether it's the rainmaker, the TC, the deal, like everybody? Are we rowing in the same direction to bring more business to the company?
Yeah. And when you keep your focus on service, serving the agents from the operations perspective, serving the agents and serving the clients, that then becomes your culture.
Yeah. What other things can the hub or director of operations or EA, like, really, what other things can they do to generate more income for the team?
Well, I think that the one of the most important things is keeping the agents in their income producing activities. And so that comes with, we can fold in the other job functions, accountability, onboarding, all of that. But if Kyle, you as the rainmaker are doing activities that do not directly drive income to the business, I need to rip those things out of your hand and either fill it with a system or fill it with another person.
Yeah. And to be clear, everybody, the 5 job descriptions of a realtor, a rainmaker, somebody who, a buyer's agent or whoever that is what, Ryan? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Say that question one more time. I was reading the
The
chat.
5 job descriptions, or the 5 things. So it's the 80-20 rule, right? When we focus on our 20%, it produces the 80% of the results. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure everyone really understands what a rainmaker or an agent's job is. So then we get caught up in, should I do this or should I do that, or what does the DOO take care of? If you really look at it, there's 5 things that an agent does is their 20%. As long as a director of operations can keep that agent in their 20% as long as possible, then that's the income producing, what you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So what is the 5
And
things?
you use the word they steer away from it. I would also add in there they avoid it. It is lead generation,
Yep.
lead follow-up, and those are two very different things. Going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and scripts and role play.
Bingo. That's exactly right. Lead generate, lead follow-up, right? Lead generate is to find new business. Lead follow-up is to build a business, right? Go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and getting better at your craft and scripts and role plays. So that all the director of operations that are sitting on this call, look at your Rainmaker's calendar and see if that 20% matches what they should be doing. And if it's not, that's where the high D personality needs to come in and say, what are you doing outside of this 20% that I am going to rip from your hands today?
Yeah. Well, and anywhere there is a gap, you fill it with a system.
Tell me a little
So
bit more
that
about
can
that.
be very simple. From my gap is I want to journal more. My system is I'm going to put my journal on my pillow on my bed so that I make sure and journal more when I go to bed at night, right? If there is a gap in the business, so your agent isn't lead generating like they should be, not that that ever happens, but they're not lead generating like they should be, right? There's a gap there. I'm going to inspect the heck out of that and figure out what is stopping them. Is it like Netflix and they're getting in the database and they're spending more time looking for who they're going to call than actually calling them? How can I fill that with a system to where my agent can sit down and I can say, here, call these people? Is it a gap on going on appointments? What's in their calendar that shouldn't be? How can we protect this appointment time to where they're not doing appointments at 8 o'clock at night and end up hating their job, right? So anywhere that there's a gap in the business, you got to ask the questions, what system are we missing to fill that gap?
Yeah. And lead generation and lead follow-up drives the business. I mean, I've got, partners on Rainmakers that are like, oh, I've got to work on this system or I've got to work on that system. At the end of the day, if you have nothing in the pipeline or nothing pending or nothing active, there's nothing else to talk about. Like everybody's on the phones to generate the business, right? You can have systems. However, it still goes back to sales and profit and then earn the right to have the systems in the gap. If you don't have the sales or the profit, there is no systems to have. The system is get on the phone and generate business, non-negotiable, right? And there's a statistic. I want everybody to write this down, and I may be a little off for a few percentages, but this is a fact. If a Rainmaker goes into a CRM or they have to fill out or find the list of the people to call, they're 20% likely to actually do it. And it may be off just a little bit. Director of operations on this call, if you hand that list to a Rainmaker and say, call these people, and you do that every single day, you're taking the thinking out of it, and they're 80% likely to do it because they're counting on, because you're counting on them to do it and for them to give you back the calls or the notes that they've made. I'm going to say that again. If they do it, if they have to go do it, they're 20% likely to do it. If you're able to hand them a list, they're 80% likely to do it. Is that about accurate, Ryan? Have you seen that as
Yeah,
well?
and you used a really important word there, and is you're taking the think out of it. The thinking is a visionary superpower and their kryptonite.
Yes.
They are masters at tangling things and finding anything else to do other than that one thing.
Yeah.
Agents are, this didn't come from me, so don't hold me to it, but as a whole, entrepreneurs, they're highly functioning ADHD adults.
1000%. And the successful ones are that.
Yes.
Period.
And so knowing and having the relationship to where you can say, they come in during the first thing in the morning, they do what they need to do, they make their coffee, you take their laptop and their cell phone, you hand them a piece of paper with who to call, and the names with the dollar sign symbols next to them or the hot leads. They sit down at a desk phone, you've removed every distraction, and you say, do this. They are 80% more likely to make sure that that gets done versus letting them go off into the wild on their own and say, hey, get in this database.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a power. That's just a little hack just in that, from being able to support your rainmakers, is just doing that. And that's where that high D comes in. You know, at the end of the day, if we're not driving business and leads, nobody has a job, right? Nobody has a company, and people get so distracted on this. It's crazy.
Well, and it goes back to, you know, the definition of the one thing is the one thing that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary. It will always come back to lead generation.
Yeah. Well, I say when I teach is, you know, there's not too many things that 20 real estate conversations a day can't solve. And then we tend to overcomplicate it, right? Oh, it's this or this got in the way, or this appointment, or whatever it is. If you don't like the money and you don't like the business, just have a clicker or a checkbox or something. Just go have 20 real estate conversations a day. Things get a lot easier in the next 90 days, period.
And a great DOO is going to identify the systems that are missing in the business to enable you to do that at a high level.
And that's the piece, honestly, Ryan, we're hitting home today, is I don't think director of operations really understand the impact of what they can provide to a company by being able to do those things that we've mentioned today. And just taking that thing, owning it, getting things off the plate so the agents can be in their most productive state. And now you're driving the company, and then the company grows, there's opportunity, and now, you know, everything goes along the way.
Well, and I had a coach once tell me, and I love this line, and I use it as well with my coaching clients, is that I would rather slow down a Mustang than speed up a donkey. Right?
Say that again, because it's, yeah,
I would
that's
rather
funny.
slow down a Mustang than speed up a donkey.
Yeah.
Your DOO should be someone that you need to slow down.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they come in, they own the role, they own the business, and you're not going to get this role for $30,000 or $40,000 a year.
That's correct. Yeah, you're going to pay for that. And that's and I think one of our colleagues has said it. If you want to bring somebody in and you do not want to spend the time with that director of operations, you better add a zero to their salary.
Exactly.
Because they're that talented, they're that willing to take things off the plate, and they're basically running the company for you, and you're just a sales agent of that company. And they're doing everything. They're tracking the KPIs, right? They have the scorecard to really understand the business. They're looking at the financials as the CEO of the company.
Yeah. I always tell this story that, and for those DOOs that are on here, I always think this is a great testament to really what your job is. When I was in the role, we were sitting in our admin room, and I've got the P&L. I'm working on the budget. I've got the calculator going. I got all the things, right? And we've got the EA, the TC, and the marketing person sitting there. And the Rainmaker at the time comes in and says, hey, Ryan, the printer is out of paper. And I remember looking at him like, are you really asking me right now to make sure that the printer has paper? I'm sitting here working on our budget for next year for the business. And in our one-on-one that week, he brought it up and he said, I don't need you to get printer paper. I need you to make sure that it gets done. It doesn't have to be you. I just need to make sure that for you to make sure that it gets done. And so when you look at a director of operations really leading that team, they're the wedding coordinator, right? They're making sure the DJ shows up on time. They're making sure the food, they're making sure everybody's where they need to be. And that's exactly what that role is. And so a great DOO will look at it and say, how can I make sure that I am not the person that has to do this? We either have another human or a system to execute it and make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, love that. I'd be curious as to what is everyone hearing today from our conversations just with Ryan and I. We've got about 14 minutes. We're opening things up. Love to put your questions, come off of or raise your hands, put your questions in some of the chats, or maybe some ahas or thoughts that you're hearing from today. That's going to help you get better. So as people are starting to do that, Ryan, what else can the director of operations be doing to drive more business to the bottom line?
Driving talent.
Driving.
So, yep, if you look at the 5 functions, we had HR. You don't have an HR department. Congratulations, DOO. You are now the HR department. And so where there is a gap in the business's goals and the agent's goals, you recruit that gap. So recruiting then falls on the operations department and that DOO to make sure that we have the bench and we are bringing in the talent to create a trajectory of where the business is looking to go financially. So they're also bringing in the humans. There's a great book out there, Who Not How, to make sure that we have that bench of talent built up to get us to where our financial goals are headed.
Yeah. Gary mentioned one time when he feels like he's hitting a ceiling or stuck, he's missing a relationship or a human, right? It's also that. And I think sometimes we get so caught in looking at the windshield of our business, or maybe even the hood of a car of our business. We're not looking 3 turns down the road as if we were driving. So who is the next hire? What's the benchmark of where we need to be? You know, I was on a coaching call yesterday and they said, well, when's the next hire? So we actually just took the budget model and said it's 15.5%. We have to be at 8 pendings, 8 more pendings to be able to hire the next person. Now we're talking cash flow, right? And so it's really that projection. Are we consistently looking for talent? And if talent shows up, we got to find a seat for them, right? Or do we just let them sit on the bench until we're ready? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, and what I love is even simplifying that further. So if you've identified, I'm missing this human and this is where production needs to be in order to bring that human in this role, I would drill it all the way down to how many more people do I need to talk to per day to get that human in that seat. Because everything there in between, a Rainmaker is going to complicate the heck out of. That's what they're great at, right? I need to talk to 6 more people every day and take X number of listings in order to bring this human in to leverage this part of my business.
Yeah.
And what I loved, we were in the CEO summit, and Gary has said this a million times, your business is only 3 things. It's your database, your systems, and your admin. Everything else is interchangeable. It is not your agents. It is not your buyer agents. It's not even you as the Rainmaker. Your business, if you go to sell it tomorrow and really quantify that asset, it is your systems, your database, and your admin.
Simple. Scott said thinking is a visionary superpower and also their kryptonite. That was a good one. And then when we have a smaller team with 1 person, too often we hire an EA and expect them to be a DOO, and they are not. We are to hire a DOO. And that is phenomenal what you said right there, because it's I love the analogy. I played football and football player, and if you're a wide receiver, right? A wide receiver is 6'4", 200 pounds, can run a 4.0 40, soft hands, and they can catch footballs in front of 3 million people. That's very specific on who that person is, right? And to that point of what we just put in the chat is we hire a football player expecting them to be a wide receiver. And so to that point is we got to get super specific on who that talented is for that director of operations. They may be the EA today, but we're hiring them for the future of our company. And I think that's a great point.
Well, and if you just put out into the world, hey, everyone, I'm looking for a football player, you're going to get somebody in Pee Wee, you're going to get you're going to get all these people that say, hey, I'm a football player.
Right.
Well, then you look at, okay, what system am I missing to work through and skim through all of these people? So the more specific you can get, and be careful. And this is a battle that we're fighting. The KPA, if you use that as a tool to take talent through the career visioning process, they have the EA and the DOO meshed together as one role that they're measuring against. Really make sure that you're going through those questions and you are differentiating what the traits are of an EA versus a DOO, and you're measuring the talent that you're interviewing against that.
Yeah,
Because
that's
they're not the
important.
same.
They are definitely not the same, and there's one thing that you just really can't teach. You can't teach grit, and when we're looking at talent or hiring talent, we're hiring a lot of people with our company. Is what's the chip on their shoulder? What's the grit that they have? Where did they go through some hard things to get through and they still came out on top? You just can't teach that, and it's really hard to find that. And when you find it, it's magic. I mean, it really is that magic in finding that talent. So, anything else, Ryan? What have I not asked you about this role that is important for our listeners to understand?
Where to find these people?
Okay.
So, yes, they may be currently in the real estate industry. Keep in mind that there are a lot of agents that were successful 2-3 years ago, and it's maybe not working right now. I have everyone asking, where do I find a great DOO? Start with your database. Start with your relationships and your connections. Let everyone know that you're missing this human in your life. Not we're hiring, we're missing this person. And they may already be licensed in the real estate industry. And I think there's a great opportunity right now to scoop up talent that maybe didn't nail it as an agent now that the market has shifted. And use your community and the connections that you already have once you are really, really specific and have built the avatar of what this hire looks like.
That's the key. It's not, hey, we're looking for a football player. We're missing this person, and this is who we're looking for. You're getting very specific on what that is, what their talents are, what characteristics do they have in that. And we interviewed one of the mega agents. I think they'll do 2,000 transactions, and he said that 75% of his hires come through his sphere, his database, the people he already knows. And my guess is those that are looking to hire talent, you probably already know them. Just get super clear on what you're looking for and then figure out who could potentially be that. And I was on a call with another client the other day, and we talked about that, and we said, okay, we got very specific. I said, now who in your world is just like that? They came up with two.
That's where our DOO came from when you asked my husband that. And it goes to the principle of if I say and I get really clear that I'm looking for a white Jeep, what happens, Kyle?
You see them everywhere.
You start seeing white Jeeps everywhere, right? The person that is now our DOO I've known for a long time. But until he said, you probably already know her. And I said, okay, well, I know what a DOO looks like. Who in my world already matches that? Our kids play baseball together.
Yeah. Prime example. And those that are in the system, reticular activating system, that's exactly right. There are RAS. Think about this. It's vision, culture, and growth. That's the main thing of CEOs got to be really focusing on. And the DOO has to be able to understand the vision and cast the vision, create the culture, and be part of that growth. And always be. And part of that vision is those that are on here that are in maybe the EA role or now, and they're moving into the director of operations, or maybe they're the director of operations role and starting to take over the Rainmaker. Be looking to replace yourself, right? If somebody is super talented and you're in a director of operations role, and within the next 6 to 12 months, you're looking to potentially replace the Rainmaker, be on the lookout for your replacement. That's how a company grows. It grows with talent. Talent wants to be around other talent. So again, when you go back to the human resources, Ryan, it's who are you looking to hire, not only just for what you need today, who are you looking to hire as your replacement as you work up in the organization? So I think it's just really important to always keep that in the forefront of hiring your replacement at some point.
Yeah. I have 2 clients that we've actually had those conversations, and they had third-party TCs, these 2 women that were owning their own companies. And it was several years ago that we said, hey, is that your DOO? Is that your DOO? And now they both have them in their world. It took several years to get the business where it needed to be, but we clearly identified that meets the avatar. of what we're looking for, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure that that person stays in our world.
Yeah, 1000%. All right, Ryan, we got 3 more minutes. Anything else that that is important for our listeners to hear that you think that we haven't touched on today?
I think we've touched on most of it. I would like to know if there's any questions, if anybody is stuck as a DOO in that relationship with their Rainmaker, and you've read Rocket Fuel and you're still stuck, or if there are any agents on here that are building their business toward making that hire, what questions you have that would help get you there.
Yeah. And Rocket Fuel is a book around visionary and integrator. That's where the Rainmaker and the director of operations relationship comes together. And another really good book is The Force and the Force Multiplier, around the relationship between a Rainmaker and a director of operations. So those are 2 great books. Any questions that you guys have? You want to come off mute? Maybe just raise your hand. We'll bring you off mute. You can ask questions of Brian and I, and yeah, we got a couple more minutes left here, or put them in the chat. I guess we solved their problems, right?
Works for me.
Awesome. I know this is a little bit different because if you, with your bookkeeping partner, we're financials. However, I thought it would just be awesome to bring you on here, just from the operation side, and just the hub of things and how we can help generate more income. So I hope this is a little bit different. I hope that people on here saw this super helpful. Okay, cool. Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate that. So again, we do these once a month, so we're going to have guest speakers on. So just be paying attention to that. Ryan, is it okay if you just put maybe some of your contact information in there if some of our guests have some opportunities to reach out, maybe with some questions for you, that they can help? Who's the author of Rocket Fuel? Yeah, good question. I'm not sure. Great job. This will help my current situation. Fantastic. Great. Are you paying straight salary or including some incentives for ROI? That's a good one.
Yes. So not directly on ROI. Ultimately, the ROI then manages the expenses, which then increases the profit. So outside of straight salary, building a profit share program for your operations. And I want to make sure and put this out into the universe and say this: only bonus your operations department based on levers they have total control over. Do not bonus your TCs off of transactions closing. If they don't pass inspection or the appraisal comes in low, they have zero control over their income. You want it to be something that they have total control over, those metrics that we talked about in the beginning that we've attached, that they can build the systems and have total autonomy around to drive their income. So typically with a really high level DOO, they're managing expenses and cost of sale to a degree with referrals coming in. And so they can be bonused or added into a profit share partner of the business.
Yeah, good point. And that goes back to really identifying what winning is. If they can't control it, they're going to get frustrated. So really providing those wins that they can actually control, that's going to drive more money to the bottom line based off of that. And quite frankly, it's going to give them joy and fulfillment because they can control it. They have a finish line to go after. I mean, you're really putting that in front of them to go after it. So.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, awesome job. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Put your
I
information.
put my email in the chat, so if anybody has any further questions or they need anything, you can reach out. But I will send you the 5 job functions so that you can share that and send it out.
If you could CC Happy on that so we can make sure it gets out, that'd be awesome too.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, Ryan. Everyone, appreciate you being here. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.